Hi, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. And it's winter time, it's holiday time, and we here at SEC TV have a wonderful holiday present for you. It is our holiday art show and fun time. So we invite the public to come on and visit with us right here in the studio. We're going to have a wonderful art show. It is Thursday, December 13th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. You're going to see wonderful local artists and different kinds of medium in terms of what they use. We're going to discuss some of that today. Also, we're going to have wonderful food. Our Frank's great Italian boys will not disappoint. They have delicious food to eat. We also will have a little vino, because you can't have a party without a little wine to go along. So I want the public to come out. You know that SEC TV is a nonprofit, and we take our mission very seriously. And I take my mission very seriously, and that is to promote the art and culture of our community. And our art shows are a way to show the public what we can do. And we invite the public to come in. You'll see lots of rooms of artwork beside having lovely food. And I am not a visual artist, but I am a literary artist, and I'll also have some of my books out there, so you can take a little taste of that. There are presents for everyone, for every kind of income. So come on out and enjoy. To promote this art show, I have with me two distinguished artists who are in our community, who I have met many times before, and we always have a real good time. So we're going to talk a little bit about the show. We're going to talk about some of the artists who are displaying their beautiful work during the show, and also the two artists near me, who are my left and right, are going to tell us a little bit about themselves and the kind of art that they do. So let's start with my left. So Michael, tell us who you are and what you do, and a little bit about the art that you have on display.
Okay. I'm Dr. Michael Sullo, and I do fine art. I'm a fine artist, but I also do lectures and teach. So I have just one piece in this show, and it's an icon, and we'll probably see it a little later. And I could thank you very much for the introduction, the $20 I left for you over there.
Yes, it's great. It's wonderful. Dr. Sullo is being much, much more modest in his introduction than I think he deserves. But he has some very interesting art that he has. It has a religious theme. So all of us out there who wish to have something very unique in terms of what it looks like, to go ahead. And there it is. Why don't you describe a little bit about your painting?
Now that's an icon. It's taken from a Greek base. Of course, icons went back to the 12th century, and there's a certain formula that you have to use, certain colors that you have to use. And mine are a little bit expanded on the fact that they are more Italian. I was raised in the Italian fashion with my painting and so on. My grandfather was a big influence in my earlier learning. And this, as you can see, is mother and child. And actually now, at this point in my life, most of my personal painting is in the ecclesiastical fashion. I do teach other types of art, of course. I teach Venetian art. I teach art that was created in Florence, like Michelangelo did, Da Vinci in particular. And that's a whole style of painting.
You are in the Velvet Mill. Do you have a studio in the Velvet Mill still?
Yes, I do.
And where is it located? Is it on the first, second floor? Where is your studio?
It's up. Actually, I share a studio at this point, and it's on the second floor, and it's with a group. There's myself and two other artists who occupy the space.
So that's wonderful. This area of the country has an enormous reservoir of wonderful talent. People who are all kinds of visual artists, photographers, and literary artists all like to call this place home because of the sand and the surf and the beautiful, brilliant blue skies. I mean, it becomes almost a living paradise, and it's a great inspiration. You don't have to do seascape landscapes to be inspired by what you see in the surrounding area. I actually write books that have as a minor theme the sea and the surf and the boardwalk because I was brought up by the water. I am a beach bum, which brought me to this part of the country when I left my roots. So, and we used to summer here for years when I lived outside of Hartford. So I deeply appreciate it, but you don't have to paint seascapes to actually have this great appreciation. So also here with me today is my friend Liz. So Liz, tell us about your art.
Well, I am I doing the right view
Yes,
here?
right there.
Okay. Yes, I'm a watercolorist, so we have Dr. Sullo and I work in two different mediums, but I love art, and I do love watercolor. That's my only medium I do. I really haven't even ventured out of it. I feel like I haven't even begun to tap, kind of what it can do. So that is, I'm just a local artist, self-taught, and just I would call myself an impressionistic realist. I kind of waver in between the both. I like to kind of go a little impressionistic and then bring it back to a little realism. But we do live in a beautiful area. That's what inspired me. Mm-hmm. We live in a beautiful area. We're very lucky.
Is that your painting right there?
That is one. That is a marsh. We live in Old Lyme. We have this great artistic community that got, with history from the Old Lyme. That is a huge art history with the Florence Griswold Museum. The group, one of the really American schools of art, American Impressionism began there. So this is a marsh, kind of very typical of that.
Is that behind the museum?
Well, not in that area, not that
Okay.
river. It's a little more on the other side, towards Old Saybrook. But that, and all the way, Mystic had a huge art community. Now we have on the Mystic Museum of Art, which is kind of bringing forth that heritage. All the way, Rhode Island has huge art communities.
Exactly.
So it is a very artistic.
All inspired by just the natural beauty that you find here.
Oh, yeah.
And the light.
Yeah.
And the light.
The light here and in Lyme, that's one of the light in Lyme
Yes.
and the light up in Cape Cod. There is something about these areas that does attract artists because the light is.
You're absolutely right.
Very stellar.
There are many stories about the French Impressionism. And the French Impressionists used to go to Arles.
Right.
And just for the light.
Just for the light.
And we have it here. We have it here for sure. When I first came here 14 years ago, I guess it was about 14 years, I came over the bridge and I spent a lot of time, grew up in Venezia, in Venice, and it reminded me of the Brenza Canal.
Right.
And it was
right. Venice should be another.
Yeah, and it was and it was exactly that, and so I moved in.
Because a lot of the artists, a couple of the genres we're talking about were plein air painters. When I say the light, there's a lot of people who like to, and I haven't like to paint outdoors. It's very challenging.
Yes.
It's a whole different animal, but
Very
it is because, and that's the light. When you get outdoors and you paint with that natural light, it is magical. It's very magical.
Is this another one of your paintings?
This is a watercolor, of course, a winter scene. Again, it's a little more magical in the sense of you can't probably identify, it's nobody's backyard, it's not a woods, but I like to take a lot of color and technique, texture, and create a story.
Now I have met, because we've done these art shows several times, and I have met artists who actually use a photograph to guide them along. Did either of you ever use photography as a way of focusing in, or perhaps doing some kind of landscaping?
Sure, most artists have done that in the past. The problem with that, I use that with students, but the problem with that is the person who's working misses all the things exactly what you're talking about. The beauty of the light, the reflections and so on.
Right.
And you are in the right media for it because it changes so quickly. the sun goes down, the lights, the shadows change, the colors, the ambient colors, and so on change so quickly.
Right.
But in watercolor, you can move very
Watercolor
fast.
is a quicker medium. I will.
Yes, of
That's
course.
one. But I will say, when I do plein air, that is one of the most frustrating things because within 10, 15, 20 minutes, the light can totally change.
For sure.
And so a lot of people, you'd bring up a photo. I think I would say probably one of the most popular ways that people paint really is to do some plein air, but take photos and composite it. Like when I do work, I actually will reference. I mean, that's why people have a library. You have books and photos.
That's right.
If I want to do a tree, I might pull out 20 trees and just sort of look at it and get myself immersed and find my tree. There's a process of creativity that people go through. And so, what I took, because I teach also, and I try to explain to my students, don't let that photo be your master. You're the master of the photo.
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't have to pay, you're not doing a photograph. You're trying to find a story. And if you have to use a couple of photographs and kind of find something that you want to express. So it's a journey and it's fun. But plein air is everyone should do it because you got the bugs and you have the light and then, you got to bring all your supplies and then, it's funny. And then people come and they're watching you and they make you very nervous.
Yeah, right. Do you mind?
Yes.
Okay. There is the Florence Grizzle Museum that you spoke of before. And of course, the Florence Grizzle Museum has in it not only American Impressionists, but also tonalists. And tonalism, if you don't mind if I go through that
No,
just for a minute.
absolutely. We want experts.
Tonalism was a technique that was put together when the country was young. They would send out surveyors, and the surveyors would, there's a lake here, there's a mountain there, and so on. The Indians live over here. And they would send out surveyors, and the surveyors would make a drawing, and the drawings were presented to Congress, and they couldn't read them. The senators and so on, they were, shoemakers. And actually, right, from here, the congressman from Connecticut was a cobbler. And they couldn't read the things. And so what they decided to do was to send out landscape artists. And the problem with that is the landscape artists would go with the surveyors and not keep up. The surveyors moved very quickly, and the landscape artists were in trouble because they couldn't paint quite so fast. Now the surveyors went out with the army. They went out with army escort, and not only because of the Indians, because of bears and moose and things that would get them in trouble.
Right.
So what would happen was the artists be painting and the surveys are gone. They're down the other side of the hill, and here we are with no protection. So what they did was they came up with a technique called tonalism. And so they cut their palette all the way down, and all they brought with them was yellow and black and blue and sienna. And it's a limited palette. And because with those you can get all the greens and so on, a little bit of warm, a little bit of cool, and smaller canvases, and knock them out. Make beautiful presentation drawings to go along with the survey and present them to Congress. And the Florence Grizzle Museum has quite a few of those, and they're absolutely magnificent paintings.
That's great.
And that moved along the American Impressionistic movement.
And I think that's a good point to make because I don't think the line is known for that. We call it the flow grizz.
Okay.
The flow grizz. I don't think people really know is not as much known for the tonalism collection. So that's a good point to bring out for people to know. But didn't that also fuel the people were seeing this incredible country, right? So these artists were doing these images, and they were seeing how beautiful Yosemite is, and all these places, and didn't also fuel, the whole, the parks, and there was the idea to preserve, and I think that this was the first time, and out of that also, piggybacking that was the movement of the Hudson River painters.
That's right.
A lot
Absolutely.
which to me is a beautiful school of art genre, and people should. And it is one of they say the only truly fully American, one contribution to the art genres that is totally uniquely American. I think that last 50, 60, 100 years, that was a great movement.
Absolutely right. And there's, in Connecticut, several of the museums have some of the Hudson paintings.
In Hartford, the
Athenaeum.
Athenaeum.
That's
Right.
right. Those Greeks, God bless them.
That's right.
They have a wonderful collection.
They do.
And
Yes,
I was
they
just
do.
up there seeing one by Church, who just did a great collection. So it is. These are, and the Hudson River is a lot of that. It does influence Lyme. A lot of the people in this area, I know as artists personally, are very influenced. I'm very influenced by the Hudson River painters. I love the work. It's very luminous. It's just beautiful. It's just trying to capture
Capture the moment.
and the beauty of it. I mean, I really am into art for the sake of beauty. And I don't really want to apologize for that. I mean, we need some beauty in our lives sometimes.
No, you shouldn't apologize.
Yeah,
You
so-
apologize for bringing beauty to the world.
Yeah.
Why? That doesn't make sense at all.
As an artist, since I'm not a painter, and I'm not really ever been a photographer, I think about what inspires you. So as a literary writer, people ask, well, how'd you come up with this idea? And sometimes you say, it just came to me. I just was putting together this character, and some event might happen. Now, in some cases, there's actually a real event. So I will read a newspaper article, and I would say something in that article will trigger something. But much of the time, it's just I get sort of carried away. I would think that that's true also for visual artists. Do you get that sense? Do you start knowing the beginning and the end? Or do you sort of sit there and it sort of draws itself in some way?
You want to go first?
No, because the reason why I say no is because the technique that you use in watercolor kind of suggests itself as you go along. I believe. Perhaps I'm wrong.
Well, I think the answer is yes and no. It depends. Like if you're doing iconic, you have a formula you're following.
Yeah, of course.
So it kind of
Icons,
depends
sure.
what your end product. So if I'm doing a piece and I just want to do a beautiful landscape, I don't necessarily have to. It's already defined as a landscape, so that.
Right.
And if I am working outside or using composite or whatever, so. Sometimes it does evolve. Like with watercolor, it's very spontaneous. Because what I like about watercolor, it is very spontaneous.
Yeah, sure.
And I try to have, when I tell people, it's just a piece to have fun with it, because the thing I love about watercolor is it has these ways in which it can paint itself. It's like magic. I didn't do anything except lift the paper up and let it pour. You know what I mean? And then people go and they go, oh, how'd you do that?
But as you're working, though, especially if you're working outside, the light changes. And so you're working on something and maybe it's a little dull in this corner, so on, then the light changes, all of a sudden that lights up.
Right.
You bring that in. So the atmosphere helps you create the painting, I don't know.
Well, it does. No, I think, like you said, tonalism, atmosphere is everything, and I think the more atmosphere you can put in your painting. I mean, a bright sunny day is really great.
Right.
But sometimes people really a mood. And I think some of the masters, they were able to catch a mood. A foggy day or just something that's just it's more subtle. So I think it can be.
That painting that we just had up before of the marsh, that's incredible. I mean, you just caught that. And the Impressionism, of course, in and of itself, people say, well, what is Impressionism? What it is if, for instance, if you're driving in your car and if you think of yourself as you're driving, you look there, and then you look there, and then you look there, and then you look there. And you don't see the details.
Right.
You see mostly color and images very quickly.
Right.
And that's what you catch. Impressionists catch those moments. And that one of the marsh, I think that's very beautiful.
Well, so we'll have that little discussion.
Yeah.
Because Impressionism, it's a fleeting moment. It's more, it's not about the detail, it's sort of the mood, the fleeting moment. And what I have read, and let's say if it's true, that Impressionism came at the same time that technology did, like trains, when they were driving very fast, when they could be in a train and they could, almost like a kaleidoscope, see images that quickly, and they were trying to do that, which at the time, it's so funny how the arguments don't change. Technology pushes you somewhere, and then a lot of people will resist that quick. So the more studio people, the people who were just more, no, we're going to do it as it is, there was a tension. And people didn't, it took time for it to be accepted because like anything else, it's speeding things up, it's changing my point of view, my movement. I don't know if I'm expressing all that.
No, you got it right.
But Impressionism now, we do love it because we live in a very fast, but there's nothing wrong with a quick image of beauty and seeing how the colors mesh. And then there's a time to look at the details. So it's funny how different, because art is very intuitive, it's very personal. Mm-hmm. It's really funny because it does with my husband. He'll love some of my paintings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, honey, I don't like that one at all. We're very different. What some people like, I'm like, it's very personal. Because it's picking up something in us that we're...
Do you have, again, I'm not a visual artist, but I look at stuff, and I think that there are certain colors that equate to certain kinds of emotions that I would think as an artist, you pick them. Even if you're doing your church-related stuff, and maybe there's a formula for it, but there has to be I would think, some sense that a particular color captures something at that moment in terms of the way you look. So a fog would have a darker thing than, say, a sunny day, but that even your choice of what you decide to paint at that moment could be dictated by an emotion which you use the actual color, not only the scene, but the selection of the particular color to bring that emotion to you as the artist and hopefully to an audience as well.
Well, all right. Aerial perspective is more or less what she's talking about, and you understand that, of course. As you look through the air, as you perceive, particularly in landscape, things that are further away because of the shape of the earth. And because things are further away from you, there's more atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And the atmosphere negates color and negates shape and so on. So things kind of boil down to just values. And as they come closer, you see more color, more shape. As you come even closer than that, you start to see details and so on. But she's absolutely right. If you were going to paint a picture, for instance, a picture at night, you're going to use more blues, more deep browns, and so on. And as you come closer and closer, you can start to add in some additional colors. But more than just a single color, an array of colors that suggest darkness and areas of light. And in a sunny day, for instance, or in a foggy day, even better.
Right.
You see like Montague Dawson paintings with the ships on the ocean. You look out the ocean; it's all just blue fog. And as it come closer, there's ships that are just blue images, and come even closer, then you start to see the detail, especially tall-masted ships. And not until you get very close do you see any of the rigging.
Right.
And so.
Right.
But the overall, if it's a battle, it's going to have very warm colors, explosive colors. And if it's just a tranquil scene, it's going to be very blue and green.
Mm-hmm. Right. And a couple of points to jump off on that is color is very emotional. Mm-hmm. Color is definitely emotional. And because I teach, and I know you teach, and I think this is something with students I find, and this was really what kind of separates, when a child does a painting, it's very black and white. I mean, red is red, and blue is blue, and there's no subtlety to it.
That's right.
And so when people I know to start landscape painting, and it's all learning to see what is really there. So in the distance, people don't realize they're not really. We know that it's green trees out there. We know in our mind that they're all very green and bright, but people sometimes don't. So they paint that color in the background, and then you try to teach them, no, if you really looked, it really isn't that value. It's much more muted, because things in the distance are much more muted, they're softer, there's not the intensity of color. So when you're learning to paint, one of the things that you have to learn to paint what you see, not what you know, but really what you're seeing. Does that make sense? Because I think there is an issue of, and then when you get it right up in front of you, you can see all the detail and the leaf with all its veins and its colors and all this. But
okay, Well, that's interesting because I teach completely the opposite way. It's true because, well, like for instance, an ecclesiastical painting, you're going to do a picture of the Last Supper, and it's a not very long story in the Bible, but there are many facets of it. And what do you paint? I mean, there's a point where Christ is betrayed. Do you paint that? Do you paint him Judas like afraid that Christ knows? And do you paint? And you look through history, you'll see that many of the ecclesiastical painters would paint
What they
different
focus on.
scenes,
Well,
what
true.
they focused on.
Right.
And is it that moment in time? Is it a moment of time when, of course, he offers the blessing and so on? So it's more of, you can't see it. I mean, you can visualize it.
Right.
You have to visualize it. So you have to use your mind.
Right.
And then you have to compose it in your mind. What will the people, if someone was there looking in, what would they want to see? Would they want to see, 11 people around a table with Christ making a blessing? And of course, a lot of that's Jewish. Mm-hmm. Okay, because
Well, it was the Last Supper. It was the Passover.
It was Passover. Right.
It was a
Jewish carpenter.
You're absolutely right. And it's a Seder.
And I think that's what we need to have more understanding of, because that gives all the beauty and the meaning of it.
Oh,
is
God,
what is
yes,
the,
yes.
what is it all? It's a Passover, and if you don't really know that and understand what's going on and the ritual of it,
You miss the
You miss so much.
You miss the importance of it.
Well,
yes.
I did it. Yeah, and I did a painting of the Last Supper, and of course, it was the end of it. The end of the supper, and Christ was holding up the cup for a blessing, and the table that were still messy. I mean, no waiters came in and cleaned the table.
Right.
But and I didn't know this, and I had a rabbi tell me that there are 4 cups of wine or whatever drink at a Seder, and that the third is the cup of blessing. That's the one that Christ would have used. So I set up on the table 4 cups, and the third one is spilled. So you got to think you're painting through, and that's not only in ecclesiastical paintings, in landscapes particularly. Why am I doing this landscape? What's the point? Now, you had said, well, because you want to make beautiful paints, and I agree with that. There's nothing wrong with creating beauty in the world that we have now today. We can use all the beauty we can get. But I've seen your pictures, and there are several that you may not have done it personally, or I don't believe that. I think you did it on purpose. But your paintings are moody, some of them, or some of them are very happy, and so on. So those are things that you brought into that painting.
Well,
It's not just a Xerox copy of what you were looking at.
Oh, no.
Your
Yeah, there
emotions.
is the element of transcendence. You do want to transcend.
Exactly.
Well, that's just a Christmas. That was a little.
I mean, it's a pretty.
Yeah, it's just a happy Christmas.
Well, that's good.
Everybody
What's wrong
wants
with
their
happy?
Christmas door to look like that, right? With just the right amount of snow, not too stormy. Just
Yes, you're right.
inviting people into their home with the light on. It is telling a story, but. I think this is why we love art, and it's so endearing in the human, because there's something for everyone. There is the deep need, and before photography, seriously, when people, great masters who could tell the history with the characters and recreate it for us. I mean, this is why we do go back to, think of Napoleon. I mean, these people would commission great works of art on the great events because we needed to have it recorded, correct?
Right.
And they needed to, but I will tell you, my one little beef in the art world, and I do have,
At least one. Yes.
is there, because I went to a school, this is my dad, funny, Rochester Intertechnology for sort of semi-art background, but they never taught us the fundamental. This was at the time when, they were throwing the baby out with on so many issues, and art was just, express yourself. Just, learn how to throw color and stuff. I did not get the basics. I mean, I paid good money for college education. I never was taught to draw. I never even knew. I mean, that's how stupid I was, I suppose, that drawing was the foundation of all good art, really. Color theory, knowing your technique, whatever it is. I think our problem today is there isn't enough emphasis on the fundamentals, mastering your craft. Because I look at it this way. would you go and get a surgery by a doctor who said, I don't need to know about the body. I mean, I don't even know about tools. Let me have that shoe. I mean, who would do that in their right mind, right? Why do we let artists, in a lot of sense, get off the hook like that? I'm like,
Absolutely
so
right.
anyways, that's
No,
my
I had a
little
student
spiel.
today that can paint like a champ, but she can't draw. No, I shouldn't say that. Her drawing is weak.
Right.
And so I'm teaching her now perspective, 1 point, 2 point
Right.
perspective, and so on. And most of the students that I have, when we get to that point, they just say, "Oh, God, you mean there's math involved here? Proportionality, and oh my
I
God,
gotta learn
hated
color
that in high
mixing.
school."
Yeah.
Little chemistry, pigmentation.
I always tell them that everything that's in science, everything that's in history and math and so on, is all inside of your painting, included in your education to becoming an artist.
Yes.
So you do you sketch? Do you sketch out the?
You can, absolutely. I mean, this is why some great paintings, if people understood. I want to give a plug for someone I know in our area.
That's great. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And if you ever see Russ Kramer, right now, there's a very
Russ, I know
famous
Russ.
artist down in Mystic, above the Finer Line Gallery. I'll give you guys. He's a master draftsman. This guy does beautiful paintings. He has a little niche of what would you call it? America's Cup racing. He does a lot. He's a great artist, but he has mastered this area of doing America Cup recreations that are so accurate to the dress, the people that were on that boat,
Right.
the boats that were in the water at that time, the race, the mood, the color of the atmosphere of the day, if it was sunny or bright, and the draftsmanship. Right, if people understood the length of backstory, to
Right.
producing it, it's amazing. I mean, that's a master, someone who
Absolutely
like I said, can
right.
bring all those disciplines in and create a great work of art. That is my one thing, and I think people should appreciate the fact that there is a reason why usually great works of art stay great works of art, because people eventually will figure out, wow, that just wasn't slapped together.
Yeah,
It didn't. It wasn't done by a 5-year-old.
It wasn't done by
Oh, yes.
even Picasso's great picture, which I think of the bird with the olive branch and things. When people understand art theory, I mean, every single line, there is not a superfluous line in that drawing. It is like a perfect storm of line and just enough color, just enough to make just that, and that's not easy to do. Seriously, 5-year-olds don't do that. That's why we really don't have a 5-year-old attempt to draw in a museum. It's interesting. I just
Well, in that same line, in European style painting, that's probably why, because you studied here in America, right? In European
Right.
style painting, here you learn to paint alla prima. Alla prima in Italian means everything at once. So that means you got to get the color right, you got to get the form right, you got to get the shape right. In Europe, and this started way back during the Renaissance, probably with the Bellini family in Venice. And what happens is you take the picture and pull it apart. So the first thing you do is draw. And you draw, and in the drawing you get proportionality correct, you get the perspective correct, and so on. You get that done. You take that and you transfer it to canvas. And then from there you take the canvas and you do an underpainting. And now you use Verona or brown, Verdi green, or griso, which is grays. So you do your entire painting in monochrome, and you get it done. 100% looks like a finished painting. Actually, my wife did several paintings, and she likes to use the brown, and she stops because she happens to like the look of a monochrome painting, which kind of drives me nuts. Anyway, so she does. Anyway, in the painting style, you do monochrome painting. Now from there, you add color. You let it dry, and you got to let it dry good. It's got to get dried maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, till it's completely dried. And then over that, you put the color. And the color is called, you put the color on in a semi-transparent manner. So you go over the gray drawing. This is called velatura. And the velatura goes over and it adds color. Very much like theater lights. So you add the color, you do a warm, cool, and so on, and that's where you get your color squared away. So you got the drawing, you got proportionality, now you got the color, a separate item, and you get that done. Then from there, what happens, the velatura painting, it looks a little harsh. And so from there, you do glazes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yep.
And the glazes tie together. And that's the basis for all of the Italian painters, for sure.
Right.
And
Who
then
are the
into
masters?
Germany, all the masters. That's right. That was their paint. Yeah, but a lot of them took it and added things beyond that, like Rembrandt. Rembrandt would do all that and go back in and do a second impasto part, where if he wanted a little boy's face, for instance, he would go back and paint that on, strong, heavy impasto paint on top of it.
Right.
So when you look at it, it just, you see that face, but you still have all that beautiful surrounding painting done, and all in masterful. You have to be, Da Vinci, to be something like that. To be a master, you have to control it.
And you have to know, and this brings up so many interesting points to me, because this is the difference. This is called a classical education. That's why in America, people would go from America, they would go to Europe and study in the great schools of art, and for a reason, because they kept and preserved a tradition of learning. And I think this, you could say in a lot of ways, that we don't even teach our kids, we don't build foundationally one upon the other. Disciplines need to be learned. One foundation, precept upon precept, is really the best way. So you master something and then you go to the next thing. That's not how I think a lot of I don't even think we really understand the depth of that concept like you just described. And it's, it can be to our detriment. Not that you have to, but I'm saying that there is a reason why things endure, because they embed so many layers of skill and learning. And it's like like you get a master's degree. A master's will get more money in the world than a high school degree. There's a reason for all these things. So,
But they say that painting in whatever media is akin to poetry, and you are in that field.
Well, I'm a literary artist, but I come across things, like, for example, I'm sure maybe you do this. I think in my head a whole bunch of scenes and characters in my head before I put anything on paper. So I have a strange thing. I do my exercise, and when I'm doing my exercise, because it's in the basement, there's nobody around, I actually create dialogue.
Absolutely.
Outline. Here I am talking 2, 3, 4 different voices.
Absolutely.
And then I play with that, sometimes days and days, and then maybe I'll put it on paper. So I'm not sure that visual artists would do something like that, but I'm thinking you must have some idea in your head that you sort of meditate on it a while before you actually take brush to canvas.
Well, you just affirmed what she said before. When she's outside doing a landscape and so on, that the colors change, the light changes, more ideas come to you. You're doing the same thing. So you're downstairs riding your bicycle, and you have this idea, and then you have that idea, and then you have that one, and you string them together.
String them together.
So you can
so
see
yes,
I think,
There is some kind. Well, it's part of the. I think just the spark of doing something creative. That there is a similarity in terms of the issue of creativity. Although everybody, different schools will approach it. So I write mystery, somebody writes romance. So clearly you have a different genre in mind.
But you are trying. There is a process that I think it's similar of getting something from the outside, from the inside out. And, I might liken it to, as an artist, I might do a series. I might do about sketches. I do have something in my mind where I kind of know where a painting wants to go, or a series of paintings. And I like to paint seasonally. Like, I like to do that with the seasons. So winter, I love to paint winter. It's just not white. It's just got so much color. It's beautiful. But I think that there are the creative processes are very similar. You
Yes.
have to, and in whatever way it comes out, you have to get something that you really are seeing in your mind, imagination, and somehow get it out.
And I think as you practice your art, you write more, you get better at what you're doing.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Practice
Yes.
makes perfect.
But yes,
That's
yes.
what I tell.
Gee,
That's
just
what
make
they
that
students-
up. Yeah.
What do they say? Even for sport, what 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration.
Oh, very good, very
You
good.
made that up too.
Yes. So we have a bunch of paintings that are going to be shown at this art show. And again, we invite the community to come out. We want you to come. We want you to support SEC TV on December 13th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. right here in the studio, which is 80 Plaza Court. You could actually put that in your GPS and get here. Otherwise, it's known as between the Old Benny's and the Groton Post Office. That strip mall back here, that's where we're located. It looks like it might not be much in terms of a storefront. When you enter, you're going to be amazed because there's going to be all these beautiful paintings on the walls all across the studio. And actually the studio is an impressive place to look and see. I mean, with beautiful cameras, we have these lights and everything. So I think you'll be impressed. Here's some of the things that our audience can be seeing. So this looks like a vase with flowers. So what do my artists think of something like this? How would you describe it to my audience so they come here and they say, I got to see this in the flesh?
I'm gonna have to step out of that because that's one of my students.
Oh, all right. Well, anyway, we have that kind. How about this one? This one looks to me, again, I'm not an artist. It looks to me like something caught up in like the Greek gods, some kind of turmoil. And that's what I think of.
Interesting. That's good because that's not my student, but that's winter.
Oh, okay.
And if you look at it, swirling winter, swirling snow, and so on is
Starting to
very
see a little bit of color on the right corner.
right.
And
Exactly.
then the light, the source of light. What medium do you know? Because I would have to say from here, I'm going to guess that's acrylic.
It's acrylic. Yeah.
Acrylic. That's a painting. We talked oils, watercolors, acrylic.
Okay, all right. We have lots of variety. We don't have, interestingly enough, this show too much photography. But here, what is this? Now, this looks like a scene in a little village. Could be in Central South America. Could be in Italy, which is a lot of these little towns.
Or Spain.
Spain, absolutely. Greece. So a little looks like hard floor. I mean, a hard street. Could be. Doesn't look like dirt, but could be something.
This is, to me, a mood, color. This is going to speak to you. Color, shape, a little bit of the outline. It's telling a story, and it's very emotional response to this. There's why each piece of art has
Right. Here we have the dancers.
go.
Here we go, tango. I guess tango dancers. I'm not sure they're actually tango dancers. But actually, so this is, you want something to spark up your living room. You want a little color, you want a little action, and she's got on her red or reddish dancing shoes. She's all ready to go. So that's cute. So for the horse people in our community, and horses are very big here, we have just a portrait of a particular horse. And I might add that one of the other authors, there are only going to be 2 authors at this art show, one of the authors, her theme is horses. So if you want to spend a lot less money than it takes to buy a painting, you can buy her book, which talks about horses. Here we go. This looks like I go visiting in Key West, Florida, and it looks like a shop there, but it could be in Stonington, in the borough.
It could. It looks also No Ink. Reminds me of No Ink. It does remind me of New England.
But it could be.
Storefront home.
Yep.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
impressionistic. Very beautiful.
Here. This is flowers in a vine, and look at the kind of light that's there in the middle. What do you think?
Very oriental and very beautiful. Interesting paint composition. It looks almost metallic. There may be some kind of metallic mixed into the paint. I don't know this artist, so I don't know where they were going, but the composition overall is very pretty.
Oh, here we have looks like some beach scene. Could be any rocky place around here. There's the ocean, the sky. We have something on the top of a mountain.
Looks like a lighthouse. Looks like a watercolor.
Uh-huh.
No, it's oil paint.
Okay.
That's another of my students.
Oh!
Okay. That looks great.
So here's the thing. Take Michael
Maine,
as your
by the way.
teacher.
That's why you have to come to the show.
That's
so
right.
You can see the artist, you can see the medium, and you can look at it directly.
Paul and
See?
Lieberman, make sure you come to see your painting.
Right.
Yes, yes. So this one looks like it could be any garden, but do I see water in the background?
I would think.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I want to say that that's another of my students.
Oh my goodness! So the secret of being here in the show is to have been one of Michael's students. So here's our butterflies. We're losing them incredibly environmentally.
yeah.
So definitely this is a tribute to the beautiful butterflies.
That's not my student, and that's a pastel piece. And whoever did that, I don't know the artist, but they controlled the pastel very well. Not easy to do. And it's a very beautiful, small composition. And what you said before about art for art's sake and
Sure, and
art
I
beautiful.
color
this is
theory
it.
in here, the yellow and the purple, working with complements, working with a nice, and I'd say maybe we should take a second, and because I know you teach and I teach, and we should tell the viewers where. I don't know if they realized where you teach and how to
Get in contact with
get
you.
in contact, or I'm sure you have a website?
Yes, I do, but it's better to contact me on my
Email?
email.
Okay,
Right.
there it is, right there.
Because I teach, I have a limited number of students that I can take. And most of my students have been with me for quite a while, actually several years. The girl that I was teaching today, I think, has been with me for at least 10 years. So, when is she going to learn, right?
Does she have any paintings in the show?
No.
She hasn't learned enough.
Well, you never learn enough. You're always up.
Always,
a
always,
teacher.
always. There's no end to it.
There's
Constantly,
no
There's
This
Liz.
is one thing.
And I suppose you're never too old that you can't come back and learn some more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And I learn from my students.
Yes.
I teach watercolor at the Groton Senior Center. That's open to
Yes.
anyone. You don't have to be a senior. It's important, but
And you don't have to live in Groton.
you aren't living Groton. But it's. I think teaching is a great way to sort of give back. It helps me. I like because I do demos. It helps me grow, and I learn a lot.
And maybe you could have one of your students have a picture in the show.
I know. I should get them over here.
Right. They should at least visit so they can
You
see
mean you don't
what's
have
in.
any students in this show?
I don't know. I have to go out and look at the show myself.
Well, you're right.
Just got up, so.
But what would you say? This is what was an animal in the landscape. Would that be any? Is that would?
Well, people appeals to me, like some people like florals, like this is a beautiful floral. Some people like animals, some people like people portraits. I mean, what you do, Dr. Sullo, I mean, there is,
There's always
you
someone
never should
attracted,
really
yeah.
say that there's only one type of art, because that's not.
That's not true. That's not true. What else have we got there to show off in terms of? We have a large representation of all kinds of different paintings.
That's a beautiful piece.
Yes, yes.
Nice color, blues. I love the blues.
Okay, this is a limited palette painting. It's not my student. It's a limited palette painting, and you can see that there's some whites and some blues. The green that's in that actually comes probably from adding to the blue some yellow. And so, of course, you talked before about mixing
Glaze
colors.
over, right.
As you can see, add a little bit of yellow into a blue composition, and you get some very
And
beautiful
I'm assuming it's an oil.
greens. Oh, I'm sure that's oil. Yeah.
One of the other nice things about we want you to come, the audience, and take a look at this stuff firsthand. But also, many of the paintings are in lovely frames, and you can simply pick them up and carry them away, and they're just all ready to be made as holiday presents. So we've taken, you don't have to go out and go find yourself a frame. There are some that are not framed, but for the most part, they make ideal presents, all set and ready to go. And here we're back with you, our Christmas store.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on this if I can.
Oh.
Paintings of any kind are not necessarily, unless the artist focuses on that, of a particular time. This can be from 1850. It can be from 2050. It's timeless. And because what you're showing there is the happiness of the holiday. You're not really, it's a picture of a door and a reef and so on, and that's fine. But what do they represent? That's what I was saying, talking to you about before, that you were saying, well, I'm just painting beautiful pictures. That's true. But the representation is what counts, and it's timeless. Artists are timeless.
Right, and I guess when I say I like to paint beauty, as opposed more to, well, I could dig myself into a corner there. I won't say that. One thing I would say is there is people, it's very, like I said, is it the color that attracts people? Is it the actual topic in the painting? Is it the style of it? It's so interesting. But one thing people should really, I want to say, is become a collector of art. I have a lot of people, I'm sure, that buy numerous paintings. There's something called a collector. Somebody who really understands art, appreciates art. It's a great gift to give and to get your children. When you buy a piece of artwork, it's something that you can pass on generationally. There's something about having an original piece of art and teaching people how to collect original art. It is a real blessing because you're bringing into your home and you're collecting something that is of value, that's not ready-made, it's not a throwaway, and you can have something that you're passing down generationally. So I think I don't think people have the right understanding what it means to collect art. That's what I'm trying to say. There is a real... people who do it, I think they get something about the whole world of art that maybe a lot of people are missing. And I think it's something that people, we could learn to educate ourselves a little more about what it is when you're bringing art into your home. To know your artist, if you can. A lot of people will have particular artists they like and collect particular works, and they always want to know, what are you doing new? What's your new one? What's your new one? So, I think it is for the holiday gift giving, for people especially who have everything, so to speak. Art, I think, is a great untapped resource of gift giving, original art, that people might not think of first, but it really has lasting value.
I was saying earlier that that's what I do. I buy almost at every show, I buy a couple of paintings for my granddaughters.
Right.
So that, because what do they need another toy?
Right.
I mean, do they need another game? I don't think so. I mean, the kids know how to use an iPad better than I know how to use a phone. So no, they don't need any more gadgets. So I try to bring them some paintings and something that might catch a child's eye. My oldest one, for example, and she's only 8, she likes to draw. So I've encouraged, without success so far, to get her mother to give her some art lessons.
Sure.
Even an 8-year-old
children
could learn, and they're fascinated by color and shape, and it's a really good way for them to get much better eye-hand coordination, so that there's lots of things they can learn that have nothing to do with actually ultimately producing a painting, as much as it is a whole bunch of other little tiny skills, like motor skills with hands, are really important for little kids to learn. So I mean, that's what I try to do at these shows, is to buy something to give to them directly.
Well, I just want to say, that is a great point. That gaming, or they say you can learn a lot in eye-hand coordination of modern computer, but classically, painting, you're absolutely right. Learning eye-hand coordination, learning how different ways. Art is, you still can't beat that for training young minds how to.
And in learning color and the way things look on a piece of paper. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that everybody out there should buy, it doesn't have to be a grandchild, but it can be anyone who wants to themselves, put something different in their Christmas shopping list. So give a painting, and I have for years. I've when they're a big milestone in people's lives, some people give a check. I have often in the past given a piece of art, because I figure they'll take it with them, especially if they're young. They probably can take the painting with them, and so I find that's. Again, how many toys do you need? How much just money to go and buy the little trinkets and gadgets and things like that? Do you need any more drones in your backyard? I mean, so let's get real. So I want to urge everyone out there, please come on down to SEC TV to our art show. I think you can meet personally. You can be Michael and Liz will be here to answer any questions you have. You can look at their work right face to face. It is Thursday, December 13th. 5:30 to 8 p.m. There'll be music, there'll be food, there'll be wine, there'll be painters, and we hope to have a great amount of discussion about art and anything else you might want to talk about. So come on down. We're looking forward to having people come. I also want to let you know about one other thing that I'm involved in. So over the year, I've created what I call Literary Salon. And Literary Salon is similar to what we do here in the art studio. That is, get local writers together to be able to talk about their work and to try and get an audience. So we're going to have 2 special events through Literary Salon, through my great hosts, the Tapped Apple, which will be on Monday, December 17th at 7 p.m. Come. We're going to have a public reading of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol for the holiday season. And then on Wednesday, December 19th, also at 7 at the Malted Barley. These are both in Westerly, downtown, literally across the street from one another. Come once, come twice, and we'll all be engaged in reading Charles Dickens' great masterpiece. I thank you for being with us. I thank you, Michael. I thank you, Liz. Please come and meet them in person December 13th, and they have wonderful art to show you. This is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. I thank my guests, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all in the flesh December 13th.